My name is Peggy McCown. I'm the artistic director here at CATF. And as part of the festival experience, many of you know, we do these events called Talk Theater. And we like to include conversations in many different ways, lectures, panels, and so forth. And a real tradition here at CATF is having this Playwrights panel on opening weekend. So we are excited to have some of our playwrights here. One of them, Cody Leroy Wilson, who wrote Did My Grandfather Kill My Grandfather, is in a show that's coming down any minute now, and he will join us after his show. And then we have some folks that are going to be with us on Zoom. We'll get to them in just a minute too. So we're going to just jump right in, and I'm going to ask the playwrights that are with us to just introduce themselves and to maybe talk a little bit about your affiliation with CATF, how you came here, if you've been here before, that kind of thing. And Lisa, the other Lisa on Zoom, I think I'm going to start with you. And please do tell us where you're zooming in from.
I'm Lisa Sinardring. I'm zooming in from Athens, Greece right now, which is very nice. Yeah. I wrote Happy Fall in collaboration with Rogue Artist Ensemble.
Yep, I'm working on that right now today.
Oh, you can't hear me.
Sorry, it's just not quite loud enough. Hang on, just wait. All right, let's try now.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I'm Lisa. Hi. I'm calling in from Athens, Greece right now. Yeah. And I wrote Happy Fall in collaboration with Rogue Artist Ensemble.
And this is your first time with us at CATF, although you visited.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to the festival, but I have not. This is my first time.
Good. All right. And our folks here in the room, how about the other Lisa? Will you start us off here?
Hi, I'm the other Lisa. Yes, they tell me I was here before. I kind of remember, but it was so different. I just remember it as being very small, and it was a very different time of life for me. So but it is amazing to come back. And in many ways, the experience of being here felt like a coming back to what I love about theater and my roots in theater and what I'm interested in theater.
I'm the first Kevin. And this is my first time here as well. I'm loving it. It's been just remarkable. Peggy said it was going to be, and then it was. And so, yeah, it's a great way to work two theater festivals. It's just such a beautiful way to get to be with people in what is often such an isolated profession, and to get to have this kind of engagement is just really rare and wonderful. So that you're all part of this is really something to cherish, I think.
I'm just going to shift this mic. You keep going.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask each of you is if you would just talk a little bit about what inspired you to write the work that is here at the festival, or where that came from, that impetus, and just tell us a little bit about how it just started.
Mine started because I'm a storyteller, and I wanted to make something theatrical. I started out as a playwright, and I really wanted to return to my roots. And I have all these stories that just sometimes are in Keynote, sometimes are elsewhere, or a bunch of these stories are brand new. And I wanted to. Storytellers are beholden to the moment that they're performing, and so I wanted to have something as alive as it could be for right now. And so I wanted to use my accident as a metaphor to what's going on with the country. And so that's where the emphasis of that was. What does it feel like to be in the middle of being dinged up?
Wow. This is my first completely, and probably my last, but completely autobiographical play. I know a lot of people over time, a lot of reviewers have said, "Oh, were you a ballerina? Or were you homeless when you were young?" Because people had assumed that the protagonist in my play, especially if it was a woman, and usually it was me for some reason, and it was not. But this play I am writing as an act of activism, I think. It's something that I was able to do for my son. And I intentionally told the truth because I knew that people would come to see it and say, "Well, that couldn't happen. No, that can't be happening, and that's not the way. It just can't be." And in order to keep the truth of it, I just wrote the truth. And it's been very satisfying for me because unbelievably, so many people have related to it. It's been a revelation to me how many people find an entryway into this play, which is, has to do with our modern medicine. It has to do with the question, are we medicating life itself? And I'm just amazed how many people needed to see some aspect of their life or their questions reflected in the play.
And so how many of you are seeing side effects may include this afternoon or this evening rather? Yeah, so quite a few of you will see it. Great. So you'll see, please. Lisa on Zoom.
I just want to start by saying it's so amazing to be in this company. Lisa, I directed your show Row at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'm such a fan. So like, hi. But Happy Fall came from, I was working with Rogue. I've worked with Rogue for about 10 years, and they've been wanting to do a queer stunt show. And so they were like, wow, what do you think about this? And I, after many drafts and curiosities, I was interested in intergenerational relationships and interracial relationships, and also the really different experience where people of different generations have in the world, and their different thoughts about like what is safe and acceptable and what isn't. And the other side, I was interested in sort of the underbelly of devoting your life to something, to love something so much that it blinds you to other parts and other loves in your life. I think there's a shadow to being so invested in something that you can't really see anything else. So those are sort of the deepest wells for me. Mhm.
Thank you. How many of you saw Happy Fall last night? Oh, okay, so a lot of people saw that last night. What is one thing about your writing, not necessarily this play, but any writing in general, the act of writing, that is most fulfilling to you?
Oh, again. It's after a story when a kid comes up and goes, "You're almost as good as my grandpa." Nailed it.
Oh my God. Well, my son once sat through tech at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and turned to the person next to him and said, "God, this was, I think it was Julius Caesar." And my son, "My mom's a much better writer than this guy."
Dang.
But I think what's most satisfying to me is when people come up to me, and some of you are in the audience, and tell me their own stories. That to me, or when I overhear the discussion in the ladies' room, or in the parking lot, that is amazing to me. That's what makes me really want to do the next one.
Lisa?
I love this. The first thing that came to mind was that I really love writing, like the physical process of it. I love every part about it. I think it's interesting because I'm traveling right now with a theater company, so I'm in Greece. And so we're rehearsing a lot and traveling. And I really miss, like, I came back to write, not just edits, but actually write the other day. And I was like, oh, I've created like a palette of my own mind and heart in the past decade or so of being a writer. And the fact that I've built a place that feels like a safe place for me where I can grow and create and then share is like one of the greatest joys of my life.
Huh. Okay, here's another question about all your writing. Is there ever a moment when you feel like you just have a block or you're frustrated with where the piece is, or you're just not quite sure what's going to happen on the next page? And if so, what do you do to get past that?
Oh, I got a block all of a sudden.
Maybe it doesn't happen for you, right? It just flows all the time.
Well, there's all these different, sometimes you persevere. I'm a deadline writer, so if I'm in a state of fear, I write way better. That seems to kick my muse out of the bush when I gotta get something done. So that's, a lot of times that's how I set it up. I set it up so I have to get something done, and because of that, I can't afford to have a block.
Yeah. I know this is gonna sound weird, and I know I've been asked that before. I don't really feel like I have writer's block, but I have a lot of other frustrations and a lot of other constraints, depending on the production, depending on what we're doing, that cause me frustration. And I try to look at the limitations as a prompt to be more creative. Like, okay, I have this limitation, whether, it's the producer or the producer or and I have to find a way to say what I need to say within the constraints, and hopefully it makes me more.
Okay, I believe you're talking about a Broadway tribute.
Maybe.
Other Lisa?
Um, I mean, what Kim was saying is like, we love a deadline. Suddenly everything gets much clearer. But sometimes, especially in early drafts, when it's just me, there's no one asking for the script. There's no one, looking at it but me. I'm like, I'm not the self I need to be to write this yet. There are certain plays where I've had to put it down for like 6 months until I can grow in order to be the person that needs to write the next scene. And so that's like early draft stuff. But with workshops and stuff, like when it needs to get done, sometimes I phone a friend, and be like, what do I do?
Okay, that's really good because that was kind of my next question, which is, who do you trust most to share your work with in that sort of early draft stage that you know is going to sort of tell you some truths about it, be encouraging, help you? Who is that person you share your work with? Or maybe it's more than one person, maybe it's a group.
I have a director friend who I've worked with forever. We started out in a comedy group together. His name is Armando Molina, and he is a very, very trusted sounding board. I have a dramaturg who I'm blessed. He's not here right now, but he has who I am working with, who he is here.
Tom Bryant.
Tom Bryant. I know that he always understands what I'm trying to do. And he can tell me where I'm on course and where I might be off course. So he's a very trusted companion. I have a husband who loves everything I do. And I have an agent who's Beth Lickers, who not only is a sounding board on my work, but keeps me sane. Yeah. Sort of sane. Working sane.
I go.
Functional thing.
My wife, Mary, who's up there, she's the first person always. She's the best. Yeah, she has incredible, she gets it. She not only gets me, she gets what I'm trying to do, she gets the art form, so she's just, yeah, she's the best. I was really fortunate here to work with my best friend since 1980, Stephen Dietz, as the director. So Dietz and I go way back, and he's another one that just has such a skill in going in and knowing what you're trying to do. It's the kind of people that want you to write your play, the play you want to write. They're not trying to write your play for you. Do you remember Marie-Henri Fornes, this amazing writer? She always don't trust dramaturgs. And she goes, I trust the dramaturg when they tell me something I already know. And that is actually, that's really sound advice, because if they're touching something you already thought, then that's something to listen to. Or when somebody says, I want more of something. When somebody says cut something, I'm leery of that because it still hasn't told me why it's in the play. But when somebody says I need more here, that's always sound advice for me.
And if you are thinking that Stephen Dietz is a name that sounds familiar to you, those of you that have been to CATF for a while, he is also a playwright, and we produced Yankee Tavern and On Clover Road that he wrote. I see some of you shaking your head. Yeah, so he's been with us before as a playwright.
Oh, can I just add it? Because
Yes.
I have the most remarkable Allison Bacchus, who has worked as a dramaturg on this play. She's young and she got it. It was just, so I want to put a plug in after I diss dramaturgs. She was absolutely remarkable. And she got into the world of disability from the place of knowing, but she's also this remarkable artist. So I gotta put a plug in for her. And I guess by and large, the art of dramaturgy.
Well, I love a writers group. I have one. I've been in about 5 years, and then I'm also like kind of randomly in, you know what I mean? Like for a season, you'll be in a writers group. And so I love feedback from a lot of people. Amrita Ramanan, who's one of the dramaturgs on my project, is a beautiful dramaturg in that she's just like she holds a very big container of love. So often it's not like the really intense genius insight she puts in the piece, but also she creates more space for me to think out loud with her. And so often, like, you know, what y'all were saying about like your own ideas, like finding out what you're trying to say as opposed to what other people want you to say, like being around Amrita is a paradigmatically shifting experience because she's an astounding person, but also for the work, she just like creates like a bigger container and lets me think a little bigger. And often it allows me to make connections on my own.
Yes. Tom, since you're here, do you want to offer anything about what a dramaturg is for people who may not know?
Well, there's a whole history of this in Europe that maybe here it's got two plays, and it could be about research into something. But I mean, to me, what it is trying to help the playwright write the play they want to write. I mean, I really do agree with Mr. Cole. You know, in other words, you know, it's their play, and you get inside their head and try and see what their vision is, and then help them to build their vision. And a lot of that's in my act. Once you get a lot of yeses, like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, then you know that you are in their space. So I quite agree. You don't have place space. Trying to find out this element.
Would you mind repeating that whole thought, Zoom? Just the gist.
Yes, the gist of it is, dramaturgs are there to help do research sometimes, but also really to get into the head of the playwright so that they can really help them write the play that they want to write. And that when you get to that point in the conversation when the playwright is saying, yes, 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 that's it, then you're moving in a direction where you're both connecting on how to make that sort of moment in the play work and move forward. So, okay, great. Is there anything in your work that you look back at and think, oh gosh, I'd just like to take another stab at that piece. I see now that I would like to do something. And yeah, okay, Lisa, you started.
Oh, but you have a part two of your question. I interrupted you.
No, you just answer that one. You can
I
tell us
think
when you why, that's all.
I think for me, there's a dissatisfaction with every single piece. Like there's just something that happens with time. You learn so much about it in a production that there's always a little bit more you're looking for. Nothing I've made has ever been like ding, and I'm like, it's done. We did it. We could just like everything. I think is always looking for something that is more than what I can do. Which is good and bad. Sorry, y'all, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you phrased it that way, because there is a lot of work I would like to take a stab at. Like stabbing would be good for me. But a lot of it is bringing, what do I want to bring back? And instead of bringing back sometimes things that failed, every once in a while I'll bring something back that was successful and there was a recent production of I did a piece called Scarecrow on Fire that should just perish. This year, the reason was it was very site and person specific, and it was about Dorothy's in Kansas, and the 10-man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow come back to Kansas, and they find Kansas as amazing as she did Oz, and so it's their journey trying to find her, and the reason they're trying to find her is because when she hit her head in the tornado, she disrupted the occipital zone, which she calls Oz. And that's where hallucinations are formed. And so as she's aging and her things are hardening in her head, she's returning to Oz more and more often. And they've come to collect her and bring her back home, because the doctor even says one day you're going to stay in Oz. And so it's them trying, and it's funny. So I that should have disappeared. But this year somebody said, is there a play you would do again if you could? And I went, yes. And it wasn't because it was wrong or that I wanted to rework something, because those I have to, where you go, there's something in there. There's something in there. I need another shot. But this one was, I really want to relive. I really want to do that.
Wow, boy, does that sound amazing.
Something like
Yeah.
Lisa, do you have anything to add to that?
I think I often write a play that responds to a moment in time. And so sometimes there are things I would like to update. I wrote a play that took place not too long after the war in El Salvador, and it's very much about immigration, and I might want to update it. Although sometimes I feel that looking at the past also helps us see the present, what has and hasn't changed. Sometimes I'm a little sneaky because, for instance, Roe is about Roe v. Wade, but it starts and ends in quote unquote the present. And in the course of doing that play over 10 years, the present changed wildly.
Yeah.
But I got to reflect my feelings and my changes about the subject by changing those two scenes that were in the present, which began and ended the play, which I think is actually hopefully something I'll keep in mind, because it was a really, I changed so much in those times in terms of my feelings about the subject matter, and the world was changing. It just, it was a very, very odd thing to write a history play and then present it in a time when history was changing. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. I think we're gonna take some time now to take some questions from the audience. So, all right, so who has a question for our playwrights? Let's start here.
A process question. When you start a play, do you have an idea of where you're gonna finish? And what do you write first, the beginning, the middle, or the end?
Okay, can you hold that question for a second? We'll come back. We don't remember that. So everybody, Cody Leroy Woodson. We just came out of a 2-show day. And we're just starting to take some questions from the audience, but before we do that, do you want to tell them just a little bit about yourself and how you got to CATF?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Raise your hand. Everybody seen the show so far? Oh, okay. So a lot of this is repeat information, real quick. Oh, yeah, that's nice because now I don't have to project. I've been up for hours today. Yeah, I'm from West Virginia originally. Born and raised Marion County. Moved to New York City in 2014, which was wild. New York is very different if you've ever been there.
Yeah.
I spent there about 10 years now, actually, to the date. I graduated college in 2014, so 10-year reunion. We're here. This is my first play being produced, and it's about my life story. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sure you'll ask a question or two, but it is my experience as an Asian American and trying to understand what that means being the first generation immigrant offspring and just trying to understand what that means. And growing up in West Virginia, that was a complex web of sticky. Yeah, but we got through it, and I love the state more than anything. And it's been a really great pleasure to come back here. I think I submitted in 2023, and very thankful that Peggy read that script and saw the potential it had. Because I'm not only a Vietnamese playwright, I'm a West Virginia playwright proudly, and I love to be able to represent this room, this state, hopefully across America someday.
Yeah.
All right, so we're taking questions from the audience now, and your question was about process.
Right. The
And
question was, when you sit down to start your play, do you know where you're going? How much does it change? And when you start a play, what do you write first, the beginning, middle, or the end?
Let's open.
that's open to anybody.
I get it. It was a little easier for me because it's about my life. So the beginning was pretty palpable. But specifically, the question in the beginning was, what does it mean to be Asian American? And that was like the center column to build the thing. And I took moments in my life where I discovered a new meaning, and it kind of became my checkpoints in my life. And that became the structure. And then I kind of heightened those specifically. But ironically, I was interviewing my family to find out stories about my grandparents. And my grandfather is the one who served in Vietnam. And when I found out his stories, I started writing his monologues first. I tried to find his voice. I never talked to him. I never met him. So it was interesting to everyone had all these stories, but I had no voice in my head. So the challenge was trying to make him tangible, because a lot of it rested on his shoulders. So once I found him, that's when I started interweaving my own language so that I could go back and forth between myself and my hypothetical grandfather. So, and then it was a lot of, the ending is actually probably the first thing I wrote, ironically, because I knew what I wanted to state. I knew what I wanted the message to be, because at the point when this got produced, I had lived my 30 plus years and formulated a new belief. So that belief was the ending. And then I kind of backpedaled to see what the original belief was. So that was for me.
Anybody else? Jump into that?
I never know the ending. I start with the beginning. Kevin mentioned Irene Fornes, who I didn't go to school for playwriting. I was an actor, but she was a mentor to me, and she said she used to say, I go to the theater and in 5 minutes, I feel like the play has been chewed for me. And I think, I don't I don't personally resonate to the well-made play. I understand it and I understand structure. I kind of innately believe in a kind of 3 act. It feels like a true to life rhythm, but I don't know where it's gonna end. And that is, I hope I keep feeling that. Because the endings can be so surprising. I mean, when you see, if you see side effects, I had no idea the ending. Well, actually, the storyteller in the play says, I don't know how this ends.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how it ended, and I didn't know it would end, the play itself would end the way it did. But I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first plays I wrote, I said, I'm gonna write a one-person play with a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order. And so I wrote a play from the same 10 minutes through 8 characters' eyes. It was like a Rashomon experience but the thing about it was they all talked to each other, so you might not hear the other half of a conversation for 45 minutes or an hour. So that was a play that happened all at the same time. I usually write my beginning last. Is usually the last thing I write, because I want to know what question my play answers. And sometimes I can start with that, like that's a great way to start, and then your play answers that question. But sometimes my play will take off in another direction and I've got to rewrite my question. So yeah, and it's listening the first time through. You've got one of the main things about rewrites is learning how to listen to your play. What is your play trying to tell you? It keeps trying to tell you what it's about. And if you ignore that, to your peril. And so your play is always informing you.
Lisa, do you want to add anything?
Something that came up was Chris Bays, who's a clown teacher of mine, said, you can't walk a cat, you gotta let the cat walk you. And for me, that means like following your intuition and your impulse. And I think every play comes differently, meaning the first impulse sometimes is dialogue, sometimes it's an image. Once in a while, plot will be the first thing that like will pop in and be like, what if this happens? But usually that's not the first thing for me. So usually I don't know where it goes and it's dialogue based, but once in a while I'll be graced with the information of what's going on.
Great. Other question? Yeah.
The question for Kevin, is the Oz play being produced at any point soon anywhere?
It is in a summer theater in Minneapolis, and St. Cloud, Minnesota. And we're hoping to keep it going because we're having so much fun.
Can you share the name of the theater?
Yes, it's called Lahamadou, but we're pronouncing it wrong, but that's what we do in Minnesota. So it's our attempt at French. That's the name, that is the name of the theater company. If you say anything else, they're not gonna know what you're talking about. So it's Lahamadou.
I have a question for Kevin. Earlier you said, when you were talking about the dramaturg, you said that you trust them until they say to take something out, but it hasn't told you it's supposed to go out yet.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's almost always in a play, I think if you guys, there's that story that's tugging at your pant leg that says, I want to be in here. And you're going, no, you don't fit. No, you don't fit. But those stories are usually the ones here. Okay, I have a friend who can bust students on using AI because students will put an anomaly in their work and AI doesn't. Plays need an anomaly to make them real. So a lot of times those stories tugging at your pant leg are the anomalies that make the story real. Because then that's the way life works. Life doesn't work in a pattern. And there's always, like a Hopi rug, there's something in there that makes it real.
How long did it take you to learn to listen to that?
I gotta remind myself all the time. But yeah, because there's always a story that I'm going, get out of here, get out of here. So I just gotta, but I don't know when I learned, no. Yeah, I don't know how when that came.
Other questions? Yes, we go.
Yeah, could you talk a little about the trend, that seems to me to be a trend, to make plays 90 minutes with no intermission. What's behind that, and is it something you all endorse?
No. Say so. I came to a difficult moment in my first play. The original draft of mine was 90 minutes. And we did 2 workshops to whittle and trim. And then we had those stories that were pulling at my pant leg. And I was like, I want that in there. But then someone said, oh, I don't know if that fits. So what I think is happening is America, and again, I'm on the bottom part of this educational totem pole here, just trying because I'm new to the experience. I was late. I came in it in college, and so I've only really been doing theater for like 10 years, but it seems like American theater is attempting to make its own model. I don't know what that model is, but I fear that if we lean into it too much, that we will lose that sense of anomaly, right? And then it just becomes about producing work, which is obviously the goal. We want everyone's work to get produced, but challenging that model is important to me. And like when I was writing my one-man show, I was like, I actually don't know what the structure of this should be. And I convinced myself that the structure was right if it felt right. And I think that's something we need to listen to more. And I think, you know, if you're gonna go watch a 2.5-hour play, just take a nap beforehand, have a cup of coffee, and like, you know. But there's a level of commitment that we need. And I think it's a sad reality, but we're losing the commitment of theater patrons to being committed to that work that may have an intermission, you know, and but that's just my perspective. But I do fear that we're forcing ourselves into a mold. But, yeah.
Okay, want to add to that? Lisa, anybody want to add?
I just think it should be as long as it needs to be. And every story is different. I think the trend has probably to do with economics. And I address it straight on in side effects. You'll if you see it, you'll see. And I also think our attention spans as a society are really shrinking.
I feel like I'm hungry. I've seen and like I'm thinking of Counting and Cracking, and I saw like Gats the day after the election. It was the perfect thing. It's like an 8-hour experience. And I just had to sit there without my phone and a group of people and like metabolize our life. And, I think about Jesse Jehoon and Elsa Went, these people who are writing like 6-hour plays. So I know this is sort of niche, like maybe it's just New York that is doing these big all plays lately. But I think there's also this hunger for changing time. Like what you experience in epic time is like my brain works differently at the end than I did at the beginning. So yeah, I get 90 minutes. We all like everyone's watching Netflix instead of watching a play, and they're like, this takes so long. Like, yeah, that's happening. But I think also collectively, I don't know, there's this yearning for a different kind of thing from the theater. So I think you're right in that there's a trend there, but I also think there are other things going on as well. But to Lisa's point, yeah, the play's got to be as long as it needs to be to say what it wants to say.
Yeah, sometimes intermissions do really interesting things to plays. You have, it where you put it, sometimes you need the momentum of an hour and a half to hit the point you're trying to hit. And so you're just, you're kicking into second gear. You're not gonna cut, you're not gonna stop the play because there's a restart that has to happen. And I think you've got to take that into account. But I agree with the trend that it's happening, but I don't agree with it. I mean, I still put in intermissions, I still do long plays, and it's just so happens, that some of them are that long because that's how long they last. And it says, they let you know.
Good. Okay, we'll go Carlos, and then I'll get to you in a minute. Go ahead, Carlos.
So, Kevin and Lisa, you've been doing this for a while, very successfully. So, any wisdom, any gems that you want to share with Cody or Lisa, who are a little younger? And then Lisa and Cody, what are you dying to learn?
Got any gold for me?
It's odd because when we stop learning, we're done. So I try to go into plays scared in a good way. And so that's what I guess I would pass on is go in scared, go in doing something you don't know how to do. one of the challenges of being here is I've done storytelling enough to where I knew I could write a story that would be successful in this. And so what I told Dietz, and I said, Dietz, I want to do something that might fall on its face. I want to do something that's dangerous, that scares me. And so that's what we did. And I still, even today, scared somethingless, and that to get up and do it, and that to me would be the thing. And I'm not worried about you, Cody.
It's one of us. Something you say, what do I want to learn? There's too much. It's overwhelming the amount that I need to learn to understand how to be a better writer. I've identified myself in a very strange culturescape, and I'm learning that whatever personal connection that I have to each play that I write is transcending to a larger ear. It's not just resonating here. There's something. My goal is to resonate with everybody. As a personal belief, they say if your personal goal is immense, you can't miss. So my goal is to change the universe. So if I can just get half an inch closer to that, I think it takes me. There are things that I'm working on where I latch my teeth into, and it's like that is a moment in history that I want to learn about. And I think specifically for me, I wish I had a dramaturg in my company of things, because I want to honor things too. And it's like there are sometimes I start writing where I go, am I correct? Is there a correct? I have to double check that. So before I even get into a play, I've got to learn. I have to take that leap and say, I'm a little bit ignorant. And that's okay. Be ignorant before you go into something. So that was really my launching pad, was ignorance.
Lisa, do you have anything you want to add?
I want to write with deeper ease and joy.
Oh, deeper ease and joy. Nice. Right, with deeper ease and joy. Richard, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Kevin, this is related to what you said, but it's for everyone. You just said you want to try something that might fail. You really want to take the risk. Has the audience ever surprised you with what any was something that you thought was right and good, and it gets in front of people and suddenly it goes wonky and you don't understand what or why? And what's that do? What that?
Well, if they don't laugh at a joke, they owe me one. And they'll pay you back. You can bank failed jokes. And but that's a small thing. And let me think. Go ahead. I gotta think about this.
I think every audience is so different. You can't write for the audience. And the only thing I would ever say, to anyone, any other younger writer, is just write what you have to write, trust your voice, trust that someone else is going to be interested, and, take the chance. And never try to write to please anything or anyone, or any idea of what is popular or what will be successful.
Yeah. Suddenly feel something.
Yeah.
Just, I can, Kevin, maybe you have this experience too, but like being a performer first, and then becoming a playwright, that is, it is a wild experience to have so much time with a piece, get in front of an audience, be the performer, and then not get the reaction that you've been planning for, right? To be truthful, the biggest what threw me off this weekend was it was opening night. I didn't expect everyone to be so responsive here. So sometimes you get too much.
But don't stop doing it.
Don't stop doing it. I like it. Yeah, it was great. But you get kind of conditioned in New York City, and you forget what the populace really wants. They want to be involved. They want to enjoy. They want to watch. They want to laugh. They want to cry with you. And New York is always like, prove it. Make me do the thing. But here, what's lovely is that people are willing and ready. And that was the thing that threw me off. Most audiences, I feel like, come in with a preconceived notion. And I think that there's a beautiful audience here that just comes in and is ready to listen. And that's fresh. So that was the most important.
Yeah.
Lisa, Zoom, do you have anything you want to add? I just keep checking in. You don't have to.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just heartbreaking when people aren't sponging what you're spilling, and it means different things with every time. And yes, every audience is different. So also having been a performer, yeah, like, doing a run of a show, you're like, this show sucks some nights, and some nights you're like, this show's amazing. And I think just being vulnerable to that and being like, how you feel about things changes. And also we're all really different and we're all going through time together. So like, in LA where I lived for a long time, when it rained, audiences would be really, really different because rain was really not standard in LA. So it just being like, yeah, we're humans humaning together. And sometimes we get each other and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
I know what I would like to add now to it, because I just had to think about it for a second, because being the writer and the performer, up until a few days ago, I was mostly the writer, because it's storytelling, so I just kept changing, and then about 2 days ago, I said, that's it, the playwright's out of the room, now I've got to be the performer. But the thing is, you've got to kick that person out of the room. There's got to be a point where your playwright self goes, this actor, it just doesn't get it. And then a point where my actor goes, I gotta save the playwright. But you really do have to do that. So sometimes it's but it is a delineation and it's a clear line. You gotta kick one out of the room.
Question here.
I have a question. I just saw Grandfather this afternoon, and I felt there was a missing character. And I'm not going to say what the missing character is because I think the playwright knows what it is. But how do you deal with a play when you have done it and it's finished and you look back and you might say, what was the missing character in this play?
Well, I mean, from my experience, I was working with Priyanka here a lot, and she reinforced that, what about the next iteration? I mean, the play doesn't end just because we close here. And I think the beautiful thing about the writing process is that it's allowed to be ugly for a while. So if there's a person that I want to, in my stuff, that I want to reinsert to the story, the narrative, the play, just start doing it. And you'll know whether their presence is needed or not. And I think that's why there were certain choices made in my play when I knew that certain people needed to be there versus not, just in this iteration. But that doesn't mean that this missing character doesn't have a backlog of journaling, So I think it's just being investigative after the fact.
Question here, and I'll get up to you. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, so glad that you're all here and we get to benefit from all the work that you've done. If you could, what's something about the theater culture that you would want to change to make it a place, a container in which you felt more excited about or welcomed or invited to take risks and really push your art?
I would like the prices, tickets, especially first on Broadway, to go way, way, way down. Because I think we need, I've seen and I know we need a new audience, because in the show that I just did, we had a new audience. And that was thrilling and it was right. And so I would like to see, I don't know how we do that. I'm an artist, I'm not a producer. And I think in regional theater, I would love to see that too, because we need, I think the stage, whose stories do we tell? And to me, that's not just whose stage is it, it's whose country is it. And I'd like to see that reflected on stage, that this is a very big and very diverse country. I think Peggy is doing that beautifully right here, but I'd like to see it on a larger level.
Anybody want to add to that?
But she said.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I have a question up here. Yes, correct.
So this is for Cody. Cody, do you have other thoughts?
Do I have other what?
Do you have other thoughts about stories or themes?
Yes.
West Virginia that you might like to address?
West Virginia specifically? Yeah, there's actually I don't know how I'm gonna do it. It's a very lofty idea. The amount of parallel there is between the Vietnam War and the Revolutionary War astounds me. Right? There's this parallel of brother and family being divided based on politics, belief. And I have this possible thing because just I'm a weird conglomerate human. But I would love to see if ancestors from America and have a conversation with those from Vietnam to see how similar they would feel. And I don't know what that form is yet, but I would love to honor the parallel between West Virginia sacrifice versus Vietnamese sacrifice, because even in this small town, you forget these. I walked the streets and I found the graves of those you're honoring at the World War II site. Such a small town. They're all heroes. And you forget when you're from New York City, you're like, oh, I had a grandfather, went to war, I had a grandfather who played for the Mets. Like everybody's got everything in New York City, right? But here, people lose a sense of honor that comes with this state, small places. And I want to honor those heroes on both sides. So that's kind of the next thing that I would like to pursue in honoring West Virginia too.
Wow, I want to see that.
Yeah, that's.
I gotta write it, but once I write it, I'll.
Yeah. Let's go here.
That would
and
be
then I
good,
have
yeah.
another one. Yeah. So.
I thought that the live airing of the Edward R. Murrow play was something that would stimulate history and new audience. How did you feel about that being televised live?
Well, I didn't see it,
Just
but
let me repeat that for 1 second. So she was asking about the airing of the George Clooney,
Right.
Edward R. Murrow play,
yeah,
and how that may have impacted new audiences and so on.
yeah, no, I think that was great. I love that he allowed that Clooney did that.
Right.
But it was tough walking by that show every night as I was, knowing that those tickets were $1,000. And
And sold out.
yeah, and people made a choice, to put their $1,000 there. That means a lot of other very worthy New York theater was not being seen.
Right.
So yes, I mean, in a sense, he did a good thing, but I don't think it changed the way things are done.
Right.
Okay. So a question here, yes.
Yes, I'm aware, I have not seen any of the plays yet this time, but I'm aware that at least the three of you on the stage have written plays that are personal, these particular plays. I think you all said that. But the question is more about appropriation and because that's been a big topic in our country, particularly in theaters. And I'm aware, Lisa on the stage, having just written Real Women Have Curves, but this is not, as far as I know, is not connected to you personally.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is.
No, not me personally.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's very connected.
But I wonder what people feel about that, because I've had a lot of struggle with that whole question of, do people have to be a certain nationality or a certain racial, whatever, this person to write or act in a play?
Go ahead.
I mean, the easiest way for me to. It's always a human story. You kind of have to trust yourself to get rid of all that appropriation convincing. Because at the root of it, and this is my personal experience, I found out I did not think that my story would connect to a single human. I just thought it was too far-fetched. Even though I had other people telling me, wow, this is such an amazing American tale. I didn't believe that. Other people get to. And I think if we just make it simplify it. You know, there's always a conversation. There's always a why are we choosing this person? Why are we picking this play? And yes, there's a business that has to be done, but if you try to understand it, it will just, I mean, it's drove me crazy, right? Because I spent 10 years in New York City trying to feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. Wouldn't you know it, I came back here to do it. Yeah, and feel all of that. So you will never figure it out. I think it's the real rub. It's like none of us will ever figure it out. But when there's a human enough story presented to people who are willing to express that human story, the reaction is powerful. So that the mess of it, you'll never understand. I still don't to this day.
Anybody else want to? Any other questions here? Yes.
Real quick question for each of you. You sit down to write, what do? Are you on a computer? Are you on a pad? Are you talking to your cell phone? All three?
No, I still haven't seen a script for my play. It comes from the oral tradition, so I just up there blabbing. Yeah.
So
Playwrights.
What's that?
Who's writing it down?
Our wonderful, amazing Deb Aquavella, our stage manager, has been keeping it all together. And it's part of it has to do with my brain injury from my motorcycle accident. I can tell stories, but I can't learn lines. The hardest thing, I have to sing a song in it. I can't get through that song. If you heard it today, I already messed up the words. I can't get through 2 verses of the song, but I can still tell the story. So I have to work this way. Thank goodness, Peggy, thank goodness this place is open to different ways of working. And in the world of disability, out of 45 people in a cast, you might print 5 scripts. So it's a world I'm used to working in, with brain injury and things like that. So, yeah, that's, we'll have a script. August 3rd.
If I get an idea, I'll put it down on anything I have. Sticky note, notepad. I'll just start reciting stuff or record it. The dedication to document it is tremendous, because I might be walking somewhere in New York City and be like, that has to be on paper right now, and I have to get it somewhere. So I'll text it to myself or I'll write a memo, and then making sure you know where all of those pieces are to recollect them is the other part. Because my brain works extremely fast, and if I don't keep up with it, I might lose that a little idea forever. But I think I'm an old soul. I think I'd like a typewriter, but apparently they're expensive, so we can't do that. So I use
Anybody else? No. We're gonna take one last. Lisa, sorry, please.
Oh, it's okay. I want to say I love that question. I went to a year of grad school and I showed up and I was like, how do people what do y'all do? And everyone, writers are a little bit quiet about process. And I'm like, what happens? So I really resonate with the question. I am really into meditation and silence. So on an ideal day of writing, I have turned off my phone and computer around sundown the night before. And then I wake and then I just sort of sit there and empty out. And then the morning I sit and meditate for about 3 hours. I meditate for probably an hour of that. And I just sort of sit there. And then from 12 to 5, I'll handwrite, sometimes computer if I'm on a deadline. And then I'm done for the day and I just sit. So it is like a whole affair for me, but ideally by hand, because I think the computer does something to my brain, but it's faster on the computer. So sometimes I work with computer.
Okay, we're gonna take one last question. It's hard. Okay, I'll do 2 questions.
You did the sort of autobiographical plays. I just wanted to talk briefly, but she's not supposed to talk about plays themselves, but what's it like to see yourself being acted?
That for me, it was funny. I didn't think of once I had written it, I was the playwright. And so I didn't think of her as me. It was very odd. In other words, she owned it, and she played a character who I know, was telling my story, but she was playing a character. in my mind. And yeah, I never thought, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I never thought, oh, she's not being me at all. You know, she was an actor embodying a character for me. It was really interesting.
Very helpful, because
Yeah.
you also said somebody, you were in a workshop,
Yeah.
somebody did the play.
Glenn from Happy Fall, it's Glenn Rizzo. Yeah, so what it became is it was an observation of listening. And as he was speaking, it allotted me space to understand if that sounded like a human or not. Instead of a writer. You know, you talk about leaving that guy at the door, right? He just won't shut up. He's always just banging on the door, the playwright. And what it allotted space to do is to understand how much closer we could get to the actual code, to this human, versus this playwright who wanted to write a very clever and lofty and, you know, really awesome thing that people would want to read. Simplify. It allowed me to simplify, which was just very strange to hear someone else narrating your story back to you. But it allowed me to also be an audience member and be like, oh, I can't digest it, or that part was digestible. So it just allowed me to see it clear. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Last question, Nancy.
For Lisa and Athens, curiosity, last night I saw Happy Fall. Is everything we saw what you wrote, or how much did the director change or embellish, because there was so much diversity, there's so much going on in that show. So I don't know if you can answer it if you haven't seen the production.
Yeah, I think I know what's going on. A lot of the script had stage directions and ideas for staging were in the script, and also it was like the basis for Ralph to jump off on. But he checked in with me about the things we could and couldn't do and ideas he had. So about half. I like to write maps for like the people to interpret, but also the staging and the theatricality was really embedded in the text to begin with. So it's like both.
I would say a lot of it is what Lisa wrote.
Thanks. Well, maybe.
We're gonna have to wrap this up now. I just want to offer to everyone that, you know, CATF is devoted to fearless stories. We're devoted to diverse stories. And I hope that what you recognize from this conversation with the playwrights is the opportunity for them to have their voices be heard, for these risks to be taken, to be able to produce something that allows their voice and their ideas to be seen on stage and shared with you. So as you continue to go to the theater, please support new work. Please support these diverse voices and narratives and stories and help us build the future of American theater right here at CATF and in other theaters. Thank you.